I'm Rob Connoley, author of Acorns and Cattails, and today we're going to talk about cattails. The great thing about cattails, or bulrush as many people know it, is the entire plant is edible. It's also a plant that you can find all over North America and really the world. Cattail has been eaten by Native Americans for many years, and modern foragers like it because it's so prolific, always comes back, and the flavor is fantastic. One of the things about cutting the cattail is that it will grow back. It's essentially a wild grass. And so if you cut it today, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be back up another 2 or 3 feet. So it's very prolific. When we cut the cattail, you want to cut it right above the water line. Now, inside, if you can see this, is a number of layers that surround a core. And what we do is we peel away those outer layers to get to a core that's tender, juicy, and flavorful. And here we go. I'm already 3 layers in. This is an older one. I would normally pick them when they're younger. I like to pick my cattails in late March and April. And now you can see it's changed to white. This we can cut very easily with a knife. And inside is a section that tastes just like cucumber. What I really want to talk about today is when you harvest a plant, don't just take one part, use the whole plant. If you have to cut a whole section off, use the whole section. So on cattail, if you're only going to use that bottom, then you're wasting the rest of the plant. And yes, it will come back, but this is about ethics. It's about sustainability. It's about being true to nature and taking care of nature in a way that it'll take care of you as you go out foraging. And so with cattail, even though I focus on the bottom, the base, which is normally a 10 to 12 inch section that's the most succulent and flavorful, these tops are useful too. What I do with the fronds after I've taken the bottom off is I put them in an oven on a baking tray at 475 and I roast them until they get dark brown, not quite black, but dark brown. You've now carbonized these and you can crunch them up, put them into a mortar and pestle or even a coffee grinder, add just a little bit of salt, grind it up, and now you have what chefs like to call an ash, because it is an ash. That ash has a lot of flavor. It's not just burnt. It has an actual flavor to it, and every plant's a little bit different. What I like about ashes is it also gives you a neutralizing effect. So whenever I do a spicy food or an acidic food, I like to add a little bit of ash, and I generally do use cattail because there's so much of it, and that balances out the flavors in your mouth and your stomach going forward. It's a nice way of using it. You can also take that ash and add a little bit of neutral oil, canola oil, I prefer rice bran oil, but any neutral cooking oil, add enough and you make a slurry. Now you can be a fancy chef and paint your plate with it, or you can paint anything else, even your foods. Imagine a chicken breast painted in cattail ash slurry. It adds that neutralizing effect, a little bit of salt, and striking black color. The last thing I want to talk about with cattail is there's a special time of year. Normally it's around the beginning of June, and it only lasts for a couple weeks, and that's when this plant, which has both female and male properties, shoots up the female, which is going to become the brown furry corn, and then out of the top of that is a stick. That stick is the male property, which has pollen. That pollen's a very short window of time, and if it's raining during that period of time, you don't get anything. But today we're in luck because I have pollen. So here's how we gather pollen. We want to do this sustainably, and we also want to be considerate if we're in an area that has a high population of indigenous people, Native Americans in particular. They often use it for ceremonial purposes. And so you don't want to just take all the pollen. It would take a lot of work to do that, but you want to be sensitive to it, especially if it's a smaller grove of cattail. So to get the pollen, you gently bend the stalk over. Can you see it coming off already? And take a large jar and put this inside without breaking it. You don't want to bend it so much that you've broken the cattail. And then into the jar, you just flick. And all that pollen pours off. Now my rule of thumb is 1 flick is all you get. Because that way, I'm going to show you on this one, there's more for the plant itself. It's a great condiment. It's beautiful color, this bright yellow. I like to coat goat cheese in it and age my goat cheese for a couple weeks in the fridge. And it adds a citrusy, succulent nature to whatever you add it to. But if nothing else, just sprinkle it a little bit on top of your salad. Today we talked about cattail, and in particular pollen. If you'd like more information, click here. Thanks, Lexi.